Welcome. Well, here's a question for you. If you're married to an autistic partner and you keep wondering, like, why doesn't emotional closeness, why doesn't it feel like I expected it to, right? Well, this video, it is for you. Because in neurodiverse marriage, closeness, it's not absent. Um, it's just different. Yeah, it's just different. And, nobody tells you what emotional closeness actually looks like. Neither do they tell you what it doesn't look like, realistically. Um, so in this video, I'm going to help you, dear friend, understand what real emotional closeness is in a neurodiverse marriage and what it isn't. Yeah. And how to stop feeling like, you're asking for the impossible when you definitely are not. Well, before we dive in today and before we really get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Olivia Hall. I've been in a neurodiverse marriage for well over 25 plus years, and my heart and my goal is to help you, dear friend, feel seen, supported, understood, and validated. Especially if you're a neurotypical woman married to an autistic man and quietly carrying more than anybody realizes. And, I want you to stay with me until the end because I'm going to share one secret that has helped keep my marriage going for all of these years, even in the hardest of seasons. So if you're ready, are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go. Well, let's talk about why emotional closeness feels so confusing. Let's talk about that. So, emotional closeness in neurodiverse marriage can feel confusing. It can feel painful, and sometimes it can just feel like there's no help. Um, like it's out of reach, right? Especially for neurotypical women married to high masking autistic men. Yeah. Because here's how all of it often starts. Okay, stay with me. So you meet this man, right? And he's easy to talk to. And you're clearly you're attracted to him. Yes, you are. And, the conversation is going, it's flowing. He listens. He even plans dates for you two. You know what I mean? He asks you questions about yourself, about your life, right? And he's kind of funny. He's smart. He's thoughtful, right? Remember that guy? And you think, to yourself, you're like, oh, he might be the one. This guy is so wonderful. You might, he, he might be the one for sure. And so you go ahead and you fall in love, right? You fall in love with this guy. Yep. And, you know, you get married. Yeah, you get married to him. And then something changes. After the honeymoon stage fades, you start to notice things that you didn't see them before. You literally, you're like, how did I not see these things, right? Maybe he's quieter now, right? Maybe he's more withdrawn. Maybe he's spending more time alone or more time with his special interest. Oh, there's a word. If he's a car guy, he's really a car guy now. He's out there wiping on the car. He's doing this and that with the car and anything that has to do with the car, right? Um, he's less. emotionally expressive. He doesn't, share as much, remember he listened and remember the questions he was asking when he was dating? Yeah. And he's just less engaged. And you're like, what has happened? And it can feel like the man you married has changed into somebody else that you don't even recognize. You never knew this person, right? And you start asking yourself questions like these are the questions you start asking yourself. You're like, you know, did I do something wrong? Yeah. You start asking questions like that. Did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? What did I do? Or you might say, why does he feel so far away? He seems like he's pushing away. Why? And so, you're hurt and now you're heartbroken. You're definitely confused because you just don't know. It's like it came out of nowhere, right? And then oftentimes, you know, this is my story too. Years later, you find out he's wired differently. He's on the autism spectrum. His world is different. How he processes life is completely different. And suddenly, everything makes sense, right? Suddenly, everything makes sense. And at the same time, somehow things also feel harder in your marriage, right? Here's what's true. You didn't sign up for anything like this. Mm-mm. You know, you didn't sign up for it. There's a sense of maybe a little bit of anger. You feel there's a little bit like he deceived me. All of these emotions start to happen. I'm an educated woman. How didn't I not, all of these things can start to happen. And how did I not see this, right? All of those questions start to happen. And so you're like, I didn't sign up for this. And so now that I found out that he's wired differently and he's on the autism spectrum, what do I do now? What do I do next? Right? So I want to take a second and um, here is a reality check. Okay. And I'm going to do this as kindly and as sweetly as I can. Um, and I want to talk about emotional closeness, right? And emotional closeness, it's not about constant. I mean, you're constantly talking. That's not what it is. Emotional closeness is not having this real emotional intensity with each other. It's not that. Um, or deep communication, deep talks. We have really deep conversations. No, it's not about that. At its core, emotional closeness means this: feeling safe enough to be together consistently, to exist safely. You're feeling safe enough to exist together, without fear, without you having to be a certain person, without feeling like you have to perform, right? Without, emotional closeness is, feeling safe enough to not feel any pressure with your guy, with your husband. And in neurodiverse marriages, sorry, here I am. Um, Closeness is often built through these things, through stability, predictability, and low demand connection. I'm going to say that again: stability, predictability, and low demand connection. That doesn't sound really exciting. It's not emotional fireworks. It's not all that. Um, so let's kind of talk about, give you like a real life example of what emotional closeness can look like. Because I know you're like, I want to learn how we can get closer, how I can feel more connected. We can have that emotional closeness in our marriage. And you may be asking that question. Well, here are three real examples of emotional closeness in marriages where neurotypical women are married to high masking autistic men. Are you ready? Okay, the first one, number one, reliability over romance. He may not verbalize his feelings often, but he does show up for you. And, maybe he fixes things. Maybe he fixes things. Maybe he makes sure there's oil in your car, there's gas in your car. He knows exactly when when he bought the battery, or when your car needs a tune-up. He takes care of the outside, right? Mowing the grass. He may take care of the bills. He may, or you may do that. So that is his way of closeness. And those are just a few examples. Number two, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm behind. I'm behind. Number two, parallel connection. So, you know, sitting next to each other on the couch, right? Maybe he's, reading his favorite magazine, a car magazine, or something about finance, or whatever he's into, right? While, you may be listening to a podcast and writing something down, or watching this video, right, on your phone or on your laptop. So really what you're doing, you're sharing space, right, without any pressure. There's no demands. You're just being together, right? And this actually is really very deeply regulating for autistic nervous systems, just to have that safe, no pressure space. And that's what emotional closeness can look like. Okay, that's another example. And then here's a third, acts of service as love. Research consistently shows autistic partners often express love through doing, not saying, right? They'd rather do something for you. The fact that they work, the fact that they bring home a check, the fact that they fix your car, the fact that um, maybe they're a guy who cleans the house. Wow. Yeah. But he shows and expresses closeness and love through his actions, right? He makes sure the bills are paid, the car works. That's his emotional investment into your relationship. That's what emotional closeness can look like. And those are just three examples, right? Um, but I want to give you a reality check in who you're living with and who you are married to, and how emotional closeness can look within your marriage. If you're watching this and you're thinking, this kind of mm, this kind of feels familiar, right? And if you've been carrying just a lot of pressure and stress and exhaustion, and you feel like you've just been carrying your marriage alone, Frazzled to Fulfilled is the place that I go deeper. into this work with wives just like you, dear friend. Um, it's gentle, it's structured, and it is designed for emotional safety. Yes, it's $97 if, and if and when you're ready, if and when there's no pressure, I'll just leave the details below. Well, let's keep going. Let's talk about what emotional closeness is not. Are you ready for this? Okay. Well, this part and what we're getting ready to talk about is it matters because misunderstanding this, if you misunderstand this, this is what causes so much pain. Okay, if you misunderstand this. So emotional closeness in neurodiverse marriage, it is not capital Not, it is not constant emotional reciprocity. It's not that. That that give and take, that mirroring, right? Autistic men often struggle with that emotional give and take. Number two, um, emotional closeness is not deep verbal processing of feelings. But in neurodiverse marriages, folks in those marriages often bond through shared experiences. I talked about earlier, parallel connections, sitting next to each other while doing separate things or watching TV quietly, or doing something that, he enjoys, or he may agree to do something you enjoy. It's not about deep conversations or that emotional repartee. And I know maybe you, dear friend, that's what you want. But again, I want you to realize that your husband is wired differently. He processes his emotions differently. He sees the world differently. And finally, emotional closeness is not number three, feeling emotionally met in the same way your friends are. I think I just kind of explained that. Your marriage will not look. This is so hard. And this was hard for a long time, but your marriage will not look like your friends, like your moms. You will not have, most of the time, you will not have that give and take, that emotional mirroring, that reciprocity, that, oh, honey, I'm sorry to hear that. He says his friend, maybe, I heard today that my friend is going through something terrible. And you say, oh, honey, I am so sorry to hear that. How are you doing? And he'll tell you, oh, and you'll say something, honey, well, maybe it'll be a good idea for you to give him a call, or you guys get together. I'll pray for him, and you'll share something with him. Oh, honey, I had just a terrible day. And he can come to you, honey, give me a hug. Let me just, and he may not even say, he can just intuitively know to hug you and just to hold you. And he'll ask you, tell me about your day. What's happening? Right? Now, I'm not saying in a normal marriage, guys get it right all the time, but typically you'll have that give and take, right? And I want you to know that feeling emotionally met and held, it probably won't look like your friends. And that's important to let that sink in. And because comparing your marriage to your friend's marriage or your parents' marriage will only deepen grief and sometimes resentment. And I don't want you to do that, but I do want you to be aware. Okay. You're married to someone whose brain is wired differently, especially like I said before, and especially the emotional processing. and the way he expresses himself, right? Um, and here's something that's hard, but it is true. More than likely, this will not change. And you may not experience feeling deeply emotionally known, feeling like he knows you emotionally, right? That he can see facially when you're upset and when you just need a hug or a simple I'm sorry. Feeling deeply emotionally known in the same way neurotypical couples do. You may not experience that. That's hard. Yeah. And acknowledging that doesn't make you ungrateful, right? Acknowledging it doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you honest. You are being realistic and you're operating not in a fantasy world, but you are understanding the world that you're living in and the type of marriage that you're in, and more importantly, how your husband is wired. So here we go. So maybe this is a good part, I think. And let's talk about how to build emotional closeness realistically now. We already know that um, our guys are wired differently. Your guy is wired differently. And let's talk about this. And there's some hope here, okay? It's not all, I'm not going to say the word bad, but let's keep going. So, even if emotional closeness will never look the way you expected it to, um, you can build more. You can build more of it. You can. That's the good news. Okay, so try this one simple exercise. Think of one small thing um, that would help you you feel emotionally closer to your husband. Okay. For example, holding hands. Maybe you hold hands while watching TV. Maybe just that small thing can help you feel emotionally closer. And that's it. There's no emotional pressure. Um, there's no processing. There's no fixing. And this tiny, small action is how emotional closeness grows in neurodiverse marriages. Mhm. Slowly, gently, and consistently. Right? So try that. Try that exercise. And this is more about you feeling emotionally closer, not him, you. Okay? Try that out. Try that out. Well, I'm glad you stayed because remember I mentioned there's a secret. I have a secret to my longevity and being married to my guy. Well, here we are. So here's the secret that I promised you. You are 100% responsible for filling your emotional cup. Neurologically, in this area of emotional closeness, He's limited. Can you build it? Can you build emotional closeness? Yes. But you're responsible for filling your own emotional cup. And how do you do it? You need friends. You need good friends. And it may be one close friend, right? You need family. And I hear you. You might say, well, Olivia, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't even have one good friend. My family, they're far away, and our relationship is strained. Okay, stay with me. Okay. You need a community. So if you don't have friends and family, you need a community. And guess what? You're in one. If you're watching this video, you're part of a community, right? And then you need safe people who naturally see, hear you, they validate you, they support you, they make you feel understood. Yeah. I'm a woman of faith. Church and worship helped me to regulate my nervous system. And my dear family, fills me with joy and grounding. And I have just a few friends, some really close friends who I can share my heart with, and they're right there with me, right? And it's wonderful to have that. So, your version may look different, but you need one, right? You need one. And you can count this community as a safe place for you. If this video has, resonated with you, and if it's helped you, even just a little teeny tiny bit, please like it, please share it, and subscribe. And if you need a little bit deeper support, you can check out my course, Frazzled to Fulfilled, and I will stick the link down here in the description. And if you subscribe to this channel, it helps spread the message, to reach other people, other women, I want to say, who feel like you feel, who are going through what you are going through. Um, so make sure to subscribe. I guess I've talked too much. And make sure to watch the next video, okay? Because, we're going to continue our conversation about neurodiverse marriage, right? You're not alone, and I am cheering you on, dear sister. See you next time.